Hi, this is Mark from Dragon Force.
This is Nora from Battle Beast.
Hey guys, this is Stu from Death Dealer.
This is Sarah from Mind Maze.
All right, what's up, folks? This is Matt Barlow from Ashes of Aries, and you're listening to the Great Metal Debate.
All right, Great Metal Debate fans, this is Brian coming at you live from the Manchester Music Hall in Lexington, Kentucky tonight. Here to see several bands, the least of not which is Kataklysm, and I'm here with
Maurizio's vocalist.
All right, Maurizio, now you're the vocalist for Kataklysm, and so let me start off with the obligatory, how's the tour going?
Oh, very good. It's been actually a really cool situation to meet Max and Soulfly, and being asked to do the tour with them was like a really cool surprise for us, and the tour's been doing great. So it's been a very, very uplifting tour, I say. It's been good.
You started, it's sort of been the month of February, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And so you got one more date left, is that correct?
Yeah, we got one more date. We were supposed to do the whole thing. The problem is, it's not a problem, but my wife is due.
Wow.
So the due date came earlier, and we had to cancel last week. So.
Darn kids, right?
Yeah,
Just keep showing. Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
And so the baby's here?
It's coming in a week.
It's coming in a week.
So that's why we had to stop in Kansas. That's why these are the last two shows.
I got you. Okay. All right. So one of the things that I like to ask everybody that I talk to, and I've asked several artists this, and you kind of have an unusual take on it. You said that you noticed or came across or sort of got into metal through the visual imagery, not just the music of it.
Right.
Did you have this moment of epiphany where you were like, I love this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yes, I think that every musician at some point takes this in a professional level, decides that they want to do that. They get that moment of enlightenment,
right?
So, I mean, for me, which was weird, I started listening through my cousin bringing me tapes. Back in the day, it was all tapes.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell is this? And, the first Metallica record and all this stuff like that. And I was listening to a lot of hard rock in the days. I was in the hair days,
Right.
When I was 15, 16 years old, I was listening to that stuff, But it brought me into the metal. And what did it is really when MTV was playing all the videos, and they were starting to play a lot of heavy stuff on TV. And I started seeing like the first, Anthrax videos, and then I saw the Pantera one, and I was like, holy shit. So when you actually are able to put a visual to the music,
right?
And these guys are headbanging, people kill themselves in the pit, and it's like, I want to do this. So that's when it became apparent to me that's what I wanted to do. Some of my guys were more like, they went to a concert and saw Iron Maiden for the first time, like the guitar player, and when he saw Iron Maiden, he was just like, that's it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, he picked up a guitar because of that. So I guess everybody's got their thing,
And so you were 15 when that kind of came around?
Yeah. I started listening to metal when I was 14, 15.
Listening on tapes, you kind of dated yourself there a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, when I was around, there was no internet. It was just like fax machine was the internet.
Exactly. Cool. Now, you guys are originally from Montreal.
All of us, yeah.
But you don't live there anymore, is that correct? You live in Chicago?
Chicago,
Chicago. So, our podcast is very fun. We love Canadian metal. We always have.
Yeah, awesome.
And we've interviewed several bands from Montreal, Agonist, Beyond Creation, and Chaos, and several Canadian bands in general, Archer, Unleash the Archers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with the scene there?
I am, not as much as I would like to, or I used to be. When you live in the area and people see you every day, it's different.
Yeah.
I moved to Chicago 15 years ago. My guitar player lives in Dallas. He's been there 10 years. So all of us are, spread out, but still half of the band is there.
Right.
I have a management company where I manage a lot of bands, and one of the bands is Unleash the Archers from Canada. Great band, and so I am in touch, and I do like Canadian metal in a special way because we have to be different in order to get noticed.
You really do.
Because we're next to the big beast of America, and it's very difficult to come out. So I think that's why it makes the bands be different. It just sound different,
Well, it's crazy how much talent comes out of Canada in the metal genre into eternity. I mean, they just put out that last album.
Band.
They're a great band.
It is awesome.
They don't get the recognition they deserve. Also.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So our podcast is, I'm the 80s metal guy. I grew up in the 80s, and then my co-host is more of a new metal guy. Of course, one of the things I love is hearing all the new metal.
Right.
We often fight about genres of metal, and I've heard you talk about this a little bit, but do you care what genre people put you in?
Not really. I mean, it would bother me if somebody's like, you're black metal, which I'm not. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I do kind of care about where we're labeled, because I don't want to give a bad definition or interpretation of what the band is.
You've labeled yourself an outsider band. I've heard that before. Is that accurate?
I think so, yeah. And I don't think Kataklysm is very difficult to identify as one style, Bands got some thrash metal, it's got melodic stuff. I mean, one moment we're like Pantera, the other moment we're like something like, maybe death metal or Cannibal Corpse or whatever.
Right.
So the band has a very distinctive sound that's ours.
Yes.
And I think that it's difficult to label, and it's difficult to place us on tours too. Like, we could do this and then turn around with Cannibal Corpse. You know what I mean? So it's...
Well, I've heard you labeled as, when you started out in '91, death metal, and now you're more melodic death metal.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Well, magazines are kind of labeling us like that. They're pushing us more into that genre. Like, they'll probably identify Kataklysm now a little bit more closer to, let's say, At the Gates, or maybe even a little bit of Old In Flames.
Right.
And I think they're saying, well, you're more melodic now.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
We've always had melodies.
6 to 1, half a dozen. Yeah, exactly. How would you describe yourself? How would you describe your music?
That's a good question.
And if it's not important to you, that's a good answer. That's an okay answer too.
It is in a way. I mean, I think that we're typically just a metal band. Now depends if you're being melodic with your voice or you'd be screaming. Right. So it's kind of like, where do you go in that route? Because if you take my voice out, which is more of a screaming end, and the music could be Slipknot, or it could be anything that's commercial, So it's hard to say, Like, I don't really care, but I do. So
So you don't want to get put in the same category with Aerosmith.
Yeah, right. And it's like, these guys are hard rock. Well, they're not hard rock.
Exactly. Oh, so we ask this a lot too, and I think I probably even know the answer, but I want to hear, what's the biggest change in the industry? I mean, you've been around since '91. You've been here a while, 13 albums. So what's the biggest change?
Haircuts. No, I'm just you know what? It's just a different medium now. How the music gets transported and how it gets. Everything ends. Yeah. And tapes ended, and then CDs obviously are ending. It's already pretty much dead. If you ask anybody.
Right. Oh yeah.
So we're just entering now a digital world, and that's where we are. Is it different than before? Well, even record labels didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
So they're getting their feet wet now with it. Mm-hmm. So it's not fair for the musician yet, like it wasn't fair when the CD came out.
Right.
So we're going into that new pattern, and now with the CD it became kind of fair, and now it's dead.
Right.
So now entering the digital world, it's not fair, and by the time that will be changing, it'll be fair for the bands. You know what I mean? So
well, you're managing. You see it from both ends.
Yes.
Do you see a change in that part of it too?
Absolutely.
Is it
absolutely?
What's more drastic, as an artist or as a manager?
What do you mean? What's more drastic?
Well, what's the harder thing to change? Is it harder to deal with it as an artist, or is it harder to deal with as a promoter or a manager?
Well, my job is to defend the bands.
Yes.
So, and to give them the best deal they can get and protect them.
Okay.
So basically, yes, it is. It is extremely hard for me to do that, because I see firsthand what's going on.
Right.
And when the bands need to make money and survive, and it's getting harder and harder to do that playing music.
Yeah.
So you have to have strategies behind it, and that's the only way bands can do it now.
Yeah.
So it's a way around it. I think that bands have way more voice now than we used to have back then.
Right.
Because the internet's opened up everything.
Sure.
Okay. So it's fucked up a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But it opened up a lot of stuff. So meaning, labels have a hard time now, doing something bad without getting bashed by everybody and get online. Things get around quicker.
Okay.
So they are more on tippy toes. They're more open to work with you on different things.
Yeah.
back in the day, it was hard to get signed. You know, if a band from Kentucky would get signed, it would be like the big thing all over the, you know, country.
Yeah.
Like the whole state would be like, holy shit, these guys just signed to Sony or something. Right. So now it's not that hard to get signed. It's hard to get noticed because you got so many millions of bands out there. So somebody, you know, and it's not everybody's being original. The problem we have also with all that is the internet's made it so quick. Going back to, you know, what you said before, what's changed is that the internet's making it so quick that as soon as something's working that gets a little bit of heat, bands are like flocking to it that are unsigned trying to copy it. Imagery, everything. So they burn it. You know what I mean? They burn the band that's like out there because there's 10,000 of them.
Absolutely.
Know? So you got to be, even if you're starting to get success, you got to work around that success to be still different. You know, move around. So it's more complex than it used to be, that's for sure.
It seems like gone are the days of arena metal and, you know, massive crowds.
Look at Ghost. They're in the arena right now doing 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people, 10, I think.
They are,
So, you know, it depends. You know, the Kiss still doing it. But I get what you're saying.
10th last tour,
I get what you're saying.
No, I mean, it's something a band has to think about and deal with, I would think.
I see it as the arena bands of back then is like now you're doing 2,000 caps and filling them up, House of Blues and stuff like that. You did it.
You did it. That you made.
You know what I mean?
There.
Yeah. So I see it as that. It's just small now compared to before.
Cool. All right, now I noticed that you have, I guess the word is fascination, interest in ancient Rome.
Yes.
Is that where you get a lot of your inspiration? And
for my other band, Exdeo, That's like.
Well, where does the inspiration for Kataklysm come from?
Everyday life.
Yeah.
And we all like, even just the way we struggled as a band to get noticed, to come out of Canada. Once you make it out, you get a record deal, you're starting over again because now you're global and you have to prove it to the world. You know? So we've struggled with that. We had a very tough upbringing as a band, and also in our personal lives. We don't come from easygoing, like a suburb where, you know, mommy's paying for everything. You know, I was from the city and we had to duke it out. You know, and so I come. A lot of that is transposed into music, and then a lot of it is also what I see around the world and things that I travel everywhere and I see things, and just personal experience and emotions that I do with Kataklysm. Kataklysm is a very hands-on, street type of, real life type of band. You know, whether it's Exdeo is more not a fantasy but more of a historic type of, you know, look at what happened in the past, and this is a storytelling of that type of stuff. And it's so metal because the Roman Empire was so brutal and crazy that if you're going to do something metal, that was the thing to do it with, you know. And I'm having a great time with that project, and I get a lot of inspiration for that. You know, I'm Italian origin, so I grew up around it, you know. So it's something that I really like and is passionate about.
Well, like, I'm always fascinated by the writing process. So you get four guys that are great at what they do. They're all great instruments at what they do. How do you keep from beating the shit out of each other when it comes to like wanting your particular input in a song?
I think that with time we've learned how to communicate with each other with that stuff, and you know, I have 150% you know, faith in this guitar player right here, which is the backbone of the entire music that we do. You know, it's all in his brain. You know? But we have the same things we like also. Although we have different bands we influenced by, we all reach each other again at the end of that tunnel where we are like kind of, you know, we like this together, and if it makes sense to all us four, then we keep it.
I'm assuming it can be contentious, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right. And then, you know, there's going to be, I think that if we don't debate, we're not going to have good music. So we have to debate with each other and how we write stuff, you know.
Cool, okay. So, you know, touring, going back to my 80s metal, touring used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and, you know, all about the party. Is it different now? I mean, because you started kind of in the early 90s. There was still a little bit of that.
You know, it's very different now. Like, I remember in the 90s when we were, you know, still teenagers, I believe. And you know, even the early 2000s, there was a lot of that stuff going on. And it was, you know, really cool. And then at some point, they stopped everything. You know, in the metal genre, you know, a lot. And what happened is they stopped, let's say, girls were going backstage. You're not allowed to be anywhere.
Right.
It was very restricted, more and more restricted than before. Now there's this huge, I don't want to say it's a trend, but it is kind of this whole sobering up thing, and it's a lot of people use it as a promotional tool, because as soon as you say that, you're everywhere in the news.
Right.
If you have a problem with it, it's a problem, and it should be your thing, and just don't stop drinking. And you don't have to make it a big public thing that I did it. It's like, good for you. and I think so. I think that's making a trend out of the whole thing as well, and it's becoming very light as an industry as far as that part. That what I'm talking about is, the partying and all that stuff still happens, but it's very quiet. It's not like it used to be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And the rappers have that now.
I'd rather do without than be a rapper.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's just shifted, like it's. And if you do it in metal, it's like, sometimes you're in the bad end of it on the news. And it's because you're metalhead and you're drugs, and it's like boom. And then the rappers do it, and it's okay. So.
I listened to your interview about that, about how there's a double standard when it comes to metal versus rappers and that sort of thing, and so I found that very interesting.
But there is.
Oh yeah.
So
definitely.
it's and even if I would say that, people would assume other things that I'm trying to say, and it has nothing to do with that. It's just the reality of it.
Right.
So it's just different world, different place now.
Well, how do you balance family now in the middle of all this?
Difficult, but
tours are shorter, I would think.
Tours are shorter, and as we're getting older, they get shorter. We try to, at least. But now this will be my third kid.
Right.
So I have, a big family, and I love it, and I think that's makes me rich.
Nice.
And I think that I want to spend a lot more time with that, but at the same time, I want to do my passion. I still have a lot of fire for this, and we have responsibilities with everybody. Everybody's got kids in the band, and except my drummer. He's still the young one, jumping around.
It's always the drummer.
Yeah, it's always the drummer. But we are really committed still to both things, the family and this. So we work around it.
So what's next for Kataklysm? Is it time to think about that yet? Or writing on the road? Or?
Well, we did Europe. We started with Europe, which was a massive, successful tour for us. It was the biggest draws we've ever done there in all these years, which was great. And then now we're doing this tour here. Obviously, it's not a full tour, so we're planning on coming back early next year at some point. We have Australia and Japan coming out in May, and then a couple of festivals overseas in the summer. And then we have South America in September, and then Europe again in December. So we are busy. We just try to couple months in between everything. So it pushes things further.
Can you ride on the road? I've heard it's difficult, but you can.
We do it. Yeah, we do it. And look, some of our biggest songs were written in the back lounge of the tour bus.
Nice.
In 2 minutes, and it was like, how did we do that? Like the song "In Shadows and Dust" was written in the back lounge. And the song's 2 minutes and 40 seconds, one of our biggest songs.
Right.
So it's like Rain and Blood in a way. It was short, to the point.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you got the inspiration, and it just comes out right away.
Yeah. So where can fans get music and merchandise for Kataklysm?
They can get it on kataklysm.ca, our website. We have everything on there, and we also have hot sauces and stuff that we have that are Kataklysm branded, and
nice.
We do them out of Carolina, and they're the real deal. So we got that stuff, and CDs, shirts, wherever you are from, you can get them.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Maurizio. I appreciate it.
Thank you.